Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Space Podcast. I'm your host, Hussein Mohammed, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. Can you please introduce yourself, sir?
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name is Jeffrey Ellis. I work at the U.S. Embassy here in Baghdad. I've been here since July of last year. My team and I work on education and exchange programs that bring Iraqis to the United States. It's great to be here and talk a bit more about this.
Of course, welcome to the show. And I'd like to ask you, today we're talking about the Hubert Humphrey program. So what can you tell me about the program?
Sure. So the Humphrey program, it's actually a fellowship program, and it's geared for Iraqis who are already at a professional level, but looking to develop their skills further, both in terms of leadership, but also expertise. So the program, in brief, it takes Iraqi professionals to the United States for about one academic year. That's about 10 months. And while they're at the United States, they get to enroll at one of our universities, and they can study, they can take coursework at a graduate level, but moreover, they get to really concentrate in what is in their area of professional expertise. And so it's a great opportunity. It offers academic enrichment and leadership skills, and of course the chance to live in the United States for that year.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful program, and I'm curious about what are the qualifications for the Humphrey program? What is the eligibility criteria? What candidates are accepted and are eligible and are not eligible? Who should apply?
Sure. So just let me say at the beginning that we have a lot of different programs for a lot of different Iraqis in different walks of life. We have short-term programs, we have long-term programs. So in this case, just because somebody might not qualify for the Humphrey program now doesn't mean that they won't be qualified and competitive in the future. And so for this program specifically, it's looking at people who are mid-career professionals. And for us, what that means is that they already have a bachelor's degree from a four-year bachelor's degree from an institution, but moreover, they have 5 years work experience in their field. And so those are the basic qualifications. The program is geared towards, kind of arts and sciences. And in that sense, it's also geared towards public service. So we put things in kind of 4 different buckets. One has to do with thriving communities. So that program, those types of programs look specifically at health and education, sustainable lands, so urban planning, agriculture, also public administration, public analysis, and then finally also about like banking, journalism. So basically those areas that really benefit the public good.
Yeah.
And so kind of our ideal candidates then are those folks who not just meet the basic qualifications, but also are looking to use what they would learn in the United States, coming back to Iraq and looking to use it either in the public sector, working for the government back here in Iraq, or working in an area that's very close to kind of government service, or perhaps a bit more specialized. I'm thinking of folks who might go on to work perhaps in one of the major banks in Iraq, perhaps folks who are aspiring to be journalists and serve the public through journalism, legal advocates and lawyers. And then finally, folks who are looking to perhaps go into education and school administration.
Interesting. So as I understand, your candidates should have 5 years of full-time experience and not part-time.
Correct.
And basically your ideal candidate is someone who's professional, who has 5 years of experience full-time, and wants to basically bring a public service to back to their country.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And as I understand, you've listed the fields of study, and there is an English language test. What is the qualification for that?
Yeah, so I think, so for this program, we do look for there to be a baseline English proficiency. There are some opportunities through the program if somebody is selected that they could perhaps do a short duration English training, say like 2 to 6 weeks in the United States. But understand that that's pretty minimal in terms of English training.
Of course.
The important thing that I would like people to remember who are listening and thinking about the program is you do not need to take the test, the TOEFL. You do not need to take it up front. Please go ahead and submit the applications. We will interview. And once we conduct that interview, then at that point, candidates who make it to that stage will be invited to take the TOEFL. In fact, they will get they'll get codes, so that way they can also take the test free of charge because they've made it that far in the application process. So the key thing here is I don't want anybody to be deterred. I want them first to submit the applications, and then at that point, if they make it far along in the process, then we would advance to the TOEFL stage.
Interesting. So basically, the applicants don't need to go take the TOEFL test and have the certificate before. They should apply first. That makes a lot of sense. And how is the application process? What is included? What should the candidates prepare before applying?
Yeah, I think I would encourage anyone who's interested to go to our website, iq.usembassy.gov. There's a button on the right which advertises our exchange opportunities, and there people will see the full application requirements. The two things I would say, Hussein, first, everything is needed. So please, if there's an essay required, if there are letters of recommendation, please make sure that all of that stuff is prepared and submitted. And that leads me to my second thing. The deadline is soon. It is June 17th. So please, if anyone out there is interested, please visit our website, iq.usembassy.gov. Take a look at what's required, and please get those applications in by the deadline.
So the process, what is the timeline specifically usually for applying? When does it open and when does it close? You said it's in June, but when does it usually open?
Yeah, usually usually the cycle it gets advertised for a 2-month window, usually starting in April, lasting until June. So for folks who either don't meet those qualifications now, or just might not have everything at their fingertips to apply for this cycle, please look for the application cycle next year around this time. I always encourage your viewers and your listeners to of course follow us on social media. We are very active on X, Facebook, and Instagram. So for folks who are thinking that they're not ready or not interested this year but might be interested in 2025, please follow us on social media, so then that way you can start getting those pings, those announcements, and those reminders next spring.
That's wonderful. And as I understand, selectees usually get an allowance when they're in the U.S. So how does this apply to family? Basically, can a selectee bring her or his family with them?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you for asking. This is something that actually makes the Humphrey Fellowship Program a bit more unique and a bit more accommodating in terms of the different opportunities we have. I think it's kind of understood that if somebody has the 4-year degree, if they have the 5-year work experience, that they have, if they are an established professional, good chances are that means that they've also established a family. And so for this specific program, in addition to a stipend, as you mentioned, that covers housing, tuition, travel, insurance, all those basic things, and some to live in the United States, a person who is selected for the fellowship is also eligible to bring their spouse, and if applicable, they're also eligible to bring their children. So think of it that way as well, that it's not just the enriching experience professionally and academically that the selectee, him or herself, can have, but also it can be a very enriching experience on a personal and family level for the entire group that would be able to go.
Yeah, and I think something that's very wonderful about the program itself is that there are, for example, if you are to go on a field trip or do research, if you had to basically those expenses are covered by the program, as far as I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah. So read the fine print. If somebody's selected, you can get all the details. Mm-hmm. And the thing I would just emphasize too is, while it's a really great experience in the United States, we do expect and want folks to come back to Iraq and have an even greater experience once they're done, in terms of moving into positions of higher authority, higher responsibility. We like to think that anytime we're sponsoring somebody to go to the United States for an exchange program, that 5 or 10 years down the line, they might be the next business leader, they might be the next hospital administrator in the hospital that they're working in, or perhaps they might even be a future deputy minister, maybe even a future minister. Yeah. So we also want folks to think about it from that perspective as well.
Bringing something back.
That the United States, we are making an investment in Iraq's future and Iraq's future success. And so while they will learn a lot in the United States, there will be a lot to be applied once back in Iraq.
Interesting. And before we move on to the next program, I'd like to ask, remind our viewers where can they apply to the Hubert Humphrey program?
Yeah, sure. Go to our embassy website, iq.usembassy.gov, and there they'll find all the information. And please get in those applications by June 17th. Okay.
So now that we've understood everything, or the general idea, of course, people will have to read the fine print and will have to have a good read on the website. I'd like to talk about the FLTA program, the Fullbright Scholarship. What can you tell me about that as an introduction?
Sure, happy to. So again, this is one among many programs that we have available. Mm-hmm. This specific program has an application deadline of June 30th. So please remember that up front, that the clock is ticking. Hussein, I have to admit that I myself was a Fulbright teaching assistant in Germany many years ago.
Yeah.
So when I talk about this program, I'll kind of be giving a little bit of personal experience as well, because I kind of did the opposite. I was in Germany for a year teaching English. This program is actually for Iraqis to go to the United States and teach Arabic. And so again, it's a professional exchange program primarily. Folks who are aspiring to become teachers of English, or teachers generally, or Iraqis who are within about their first 7 years of their teaching career, that they make the ideal candidates. But basically it is a program that allows Iraqis who want the experience of teaching in the United States to go for, again, 1 academic year, so that's about 9 or 10 months, and to go into a U.S. classroom and to teach Americans to teach Americans Arabic. And it's a tremendous program. We know that there is room for miscommunication.
Yeah.
Whether it's between Iraq and other countries, United States and other countries, United States and Iraq, who knows? But the fact that if folks are able to speak the same language and resolve those things, and so this is a very unique way that Iraqis can represent their country, represent their culture, by bringing it into United States classroom.
Interesting. And so what are the general requirements for the program? What is expected of the people who will be applying?
Sure. So the first one I'll just mention again from a moment ago. Mm-hmm. So we want people who are aspiring teachers or active teachers who are within the first 7 years of their career. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. Secondly, the expectation when they go to the United States is that they teach or assist with teaching about 20 hours a week. So it's not they don't 100% take over classes. Instead, they're expected to teach part-time, but then they also have the ability to study while in the United States. It's not a full degree program, but rather when participants are placed in a U.S. university or college, they are welcome to take up to 2 classes at a time, including one about American culture, American history, etc., so that they can both learn while side by side with teaching Arabic.
Interesting. And so what makes a strong application to be admitted to the Fulbright scholarship? Like, basically, I understand that, as you said, candidates have to have teaching experience, but as I understand, the program also assists with English language learning, as the applicants will be teaching their native language. So how does that work?
Yeah, I think what we found makes the strongest candidates is that when of course having not just the native Arabic fluency, but also being able to have those means to be able to teach it to someone. So we find that sometimes that kind of ends up being a bit of a disqualifying factor. That yes, applicants speak Arabic and they speak it, as their mother tongue, but they're not quite able to bridge that gap from speaking it to teaching it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Of course, there's the very basic part, which is, again, making sure that all of the application materials are submitted. So personal essays, letters of recommendation, etc. Making sure that everything is complete and submitted by the deadline. And the thing that we find oftentimes, whether for Humphrey or for this program, the thing that oftentimes pushes people over the edge into being accepted and invited to participate is really being able to explain to us why that program makes sense for them. What is it that's professionally, but more importantly, what is personally enriching to them about that program? Not just answering the questions.
Yeah.
Everybody can do that. But instead really kind of explaining through the essays and through the interview what it is that will make this enriching for them and what they have to contribute. And particularly for this program, since it's teaching a foreign language, since it's working with students, you can't read it in a piece of paper. You have to have that energy.
There's an energy and a passion about it.
Exactly, and that passion too, and that's something that I know it's hard to capture in an application.
Of course.
But when it works, it works.
Yeah.
And again, when we see it in the interviews, then we're like, okay, that's the person we want to put in a U.S. Classroom to represent Iraq.
That makes sense. I feel like also something that you mentioned, it's the culture. Someone has to also bring up their culture and the culture of Iraq, and also not just the language. It's bringing themselves, also bringing a piece of Iraq with them. I feel like is something that you are also looking for. But what can the program itself offer to its participants? What is the end goal for the participants?
Yeah, I think again the expectation is that folks go for that academic year, they have a great experience, and they come back to Iraq and they build on that experience, particularly as teachers for Iraq's future generations. So this program, of course, it's an opportunity to experience the United States, to breathe American air, stand on American soil, enjoy our food, learn something about our culture. It's many of the applications and successful applicants here in Iraq are English language teachers. So this is not just a chance to experience the United States, but actually hone their English language skills. And then also to get that teaching experience. So again, if somebody's only in the first 2 or 3 years, perhaps, of their long teaching career in Iraq, think they have it figured out on the Iraqi side, but want to get a different take and a different perspective on how to be an effective teacher.
Yeah.
Trust me, drop them in a U.S. classroom. You know, of course, there's a certain amount of training and stuff like that goes along with the experience. But they will come back to Iraq as a more effective teacher, and particularly for students who are wanting to study English here.
Interesting. And so, you know, what is your advice specifically to Iraqi participants that are participating in the program, whether it's at a university or a community college? What is your advice to Iraqi participants specifically?
Yeah, I think this is, you know, I'm a diplomat, so we think about, you know, ambassadors. You know, I also know in the corporate world there's brand ambassadors. So this is really a chance to, you know, be a brand ambassador for Iraq. Of course, Iraq is well known in the United States in some context, but not in the full context. I, for instance, had not heard of mezgoof before I came here.
The food, yes.
And then I came here and I thought, my goodness, like, you know, if only I had known about this before, I would have stepped off my airplane back in July and started asking for mezgoof my first day rather than waiting until like a month or two and then realizing, oh, wait a second, I need to try this.
This is very good.
And so I think it's really a chance to represent Iraq in its entirety, in its diversity. It doesn't have to be all classrooms and, you know, teaching. There's opportunities to do, you know, if a participant wants, they can set up a film club, you know, a book discussion club, enjoy some of those other extracurricular activities that are at that U.S. institution.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Jeffrey Ellis, for joining us on this wonderful interview. And thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all learned something about these wonderful programs. And if you'd like to apply, make it quick because the deadlines are soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.